The views and opinions expressed during Love and Life with Lana and Dave are those only of the speakers and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or the position of our podcast hosts or affiliates. Any content provided is not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. All right, let's do it.
You're listening to Love and Life with Lana and Dave, the podcast where logic is power and you take control. Thank you for tuning in, making the choice to listen in and get ideas for your own love and life. Now, here are your hosts, Lana Williams and David Vaccaro.
I'm Lana. And this week.
This week. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about, what are we talking about, Lana?
So the overall description of it is going to be like things that people say. It's going to be heavily leaning towards like dating, like wives' tales and myths, things that people say to you in the dating context that like we're going to just like break down logically some stuff that people always say
and what we really believe it to be, and maybe we'll look at some of them and think what maybe what that person's problem is that uses that the way that they shouldn't be using it, number one, because it's silly. And once we get into it, maybe
you know how it is. You know how that word "should" is. Right?
Yeah.
People will always do things, but like all we're really going to do is try to explain to you why they're said,
right?
What really they're saying behind the scenes. What's like the real breakdown of the thing that is being said, like where it came from or how it originates or what it really.
Yeah,
points to.
And actually, in my opinion, how dumb it really is that you would even say something like
Dave
this.
Will always.
Yes,
Dave
I will.
Be like, well, I don't.
Let
me
get
see
it.
If I can sound like you.
Go ahead.
I just don't understand. I don't get why people say that. Do I sound like you?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Your voice is a little bit higher than mine, so we'll go.
Yes. Yeah. I don't get.
There you go. I don't get it.
I don't understand.
I don't get it. Yeah, and I get and when you can tell when I'm passionate because my Boston accent comes out quite a bit when I get like aggravated with something. So yeah.
So we listen back to our podcast, not because we're into ourselves and we're conceited, but just because
make sure it's okay.
We want to hear it like we are people listening, just to kind of like hear the flow of it and that kind of thing. And so of course we pick ourselves apart. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable.
We do.
And come up with all the things we should have said and the ways we should have changed things or whatever. You know, obviously when it's live, it's live. So
you want to hear something funny when I actually listen to it? Because I sit here when I have my morning coffee, when it gets released, I listen to it when it's released on one of the podcast channels, whichever one. I happen to listen to it on two different ones. It's weird because I use my well, I don't want to say the A
Alexa.
word. Yeah, you can say it.
I could say it. He uses his Alexa.
I do.
If he speaks, he shall summon, and we don't.
Right. I don't want to summon her right now. But I sit there and I listen to it, and the reason I do is because I want to hear what that particular podcast sounds like. Because a lot of them use their own types of compression and stuff like that. So I sit there and listen to it, and I sit there and talk to it. When it says stuff, I can't help it. It's just like who I am. So.
And it's funny because I do that too, and it's like what we two of all people should not be talking to our own podcast because we know,
right? And
if we don't know that it's not, nobody can hear us. Who else would
Yeah, no,
we should be the ones that know that.
Yeah, exactly. So before we actually get started today, we do have a this podcast is our first sponsored podcast, right? So we have a little blurb for you guys before we get started, right? So we're going to do that now.
Right.
We're new to this.
Check out our sponsor.
So here we go.
This podcast is brought to you by Nick's Place, 111 Lafayette Road, Salisbury, Massachusetts. I don't care what you're in the mood to eat when you get there. They look like a little pizza joint. The menu when you get into this place is something you have to see to believe. There's all kinds of food on this menu. Gotta check them out. 978-358-8474. They're open 7 days a week. They're open 11 to 9. They will deliver for you. And if you check them out at nicksalisbury.com, you can check the menu out right now and order yourself something to eat. If you are local to Salisbury, Mass., this is the place to go. Nick's Place, 111 Lafayette Road, Salisbury, Mass.
So I will tell you, Nick's Place, I do eat there. And that was very good, Lana. Lana did that, if you didn't notice. Maybe she did it just live right now.
Yeah, I have a little bit of commercial work under my belt.
A little bit, yeah.
Good fun.
So, I eat at Nick's Place all the time.
I'm not that resourceful.
No, you're very resourceful. So, yeah, I do eat at Nick's Place all the time. And it looks like a pizza place, but it's not. It's one of those places that you walk into and it looks like a pizza place. So you're thinking they have pizzas and subs, but they have everything. You can get lobster there. I mean, they have everything. And, they have fresh food delivered every day. Everything's fresh. It's not frozen. Like your onion rings, they make the onion rings. Like I walk through there sometimes and I see the guys in the back cutting up the onions and breading the onions. And I'm like, wow, that's all like fresh every day. So, yeah, good stuff. So
very cool.
Thanks for that, Nick's Place. So yeah, we have our first sponsor.
People.
Yeah,
you should be on alert.
That's right.
And we are local or regional to New England, so of course, a lot of our sponsors will be. But we have a lot of listeners.
We do
to that region, so all of that so far all fits into place.
We do. So far, so good. Because I'm currently in Salisbury, as you know, and I will be relocating soon because it's the end of the camping season. So I will be leaving the campground. I hate it. It makes me sad.
I know.
So yeah, but that's all right.
Seasonal thing,
it is.
But it's humbling to you. It
is.
It builds your character, Dave. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, it does. It does. But
I mean, if we're all gonna no, he won't, but I'll be shoveling snow, and that's where my character comes from.
Yeah, right. And I definitely will not be shoveling snow. That's correct. So with and I almost said without further ado. Imagine that. Was there a do in the first place? I hate that statement. I don't know why it just popped into my head, and I was like,
I don't know why you did it. That's fine.
I'm not saying that. That's not going to happen. But I just told on myself what happened in my brain. But
how about without any further delay?
Yes, without any further delay, we shall begin today's show. Yes. So why don't you start?
Or interruption.
Yeah, why don't you start, and we'll go through the list of the things we have, and we'll talk about them. And yeah, here we go.
So when we say that we're going to break down some stuff that people say, it's just like sort of the usual sayings that you hear, in discussion about dating and all that kind of stuff. So we'll start with the first one because why not? So the first one is like a two-parter, and it's you'll find love when you're not looking, because everybody has heard that. A lot of people have said that. And people they toss, in my opinion, people toss around a lot of sayings and don't even have any, I don't know if it's just stuff they hear and they just repeat it, they parrot it, and they don't necessarily even really, I don't think, pay attention
and this
to what
one's
they're saying a lot of times.
Yeah, right. And this one's actually true. It is completely true.
It is true.
And we're going to tell you the reason why. But I don't think
a lot of people know what the meaning of what they're saying is.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the beginning of this is, and my take on it is, if you have two scenarios where somebody is actively looking to be completed and they feel like they're half a person or they're not completely whole, if somehow or other they've been taught that they're not really like a good person, or they're not normal unless they're involved or dating, it creates an energy and a dynamic that, in my opinion, kind of causes people to avoid them if they're looking. And that means we're hunting. I'm out there and I'm bagging and tagging. I'm looking to.
Right.
I say, hey, how you doing? nice day we're having, which I ordinarily wouldn't do.
Right. Yeah. Right. Hey, nice day we're having.
And they're just like, yeah. So, no. I've had people say to me in a conversation that they want to skip the conversation and get right to like, hey, I'm single and you're single. Which to me, it's like, yeah, we're both breathing, so are a million other people.
That's right.
I've had people say that this is like, they're trying to make common some things that like are completely random and ubiquitous and whatever. And so, yeah, sure. Both of us are single. And, I don't find any kind of special connection or.
Right. And that's just because two people are single does not make you. You have something in common. That's wonderful, but it's not anything important.
Right.
It's because if two people,
there's so many other people with the same thing, and so
of course,
it's not something to build anything on. It's something to commiserate.
Right.
Like, hey, let's have a conversation about being single. Hey, how do you feel about it? Well, how do you feel about it? And that's fine. That's a cool conversation to have. But there are people who want to get right to the point. I was like, well, I'm just looking, as everybody in the world is a possible prospect. I'm just looking at everybody like I'm a lion, and everything I see that moves is like a stake to me, and that's it. That's not what's going on, and just leave me alone. That forces, I believe, people to sort of avoid you. You're going to make people run from you. If it's obviously a desperation.
So, and we talked about this.
There's no perfume.
We talked about this, right? We talked about this in a past episode how to approach people, right? And one of the things when you find love when you're not looking, it actually is almost true. It's not almost true. It does happen, but the reason it happens is because you're approaching people or you're appearing to have no agenda. And that's very, very important when you meet somebody, and people are attracted to that. If you don't have an agenda and you're not, you're not on the hunt, as Lana said, because when you're on the hunt, people look, if I'm being hunted, I'm trying to protect myself from that. Right. I mean, think about what that is. So,
right. But how do we explain the, there's an energy you project. There's a vibe you project, even if you don't say anything.
Correct. Of course.
And I just want to stop the people that are going to argue and say, well, I don't act that way. Well, we don't care if you act that way.
You do act that way.
This is your mindset.
That's right.
Even if we don't know how you're acting because we don't see you. But what I'm saying is, even if you're standing against the wall doing absolutely nothing and you have that mindset, you project.
The way you look at way you look at the person that somebody you're attracted to, or the way you approach the person, or whatever you think.
Or just to me, it's just your energy.
Just by having that agenda.
It's like dogs smelling fear.
Correct.
It's just something that's coming off you, and that's
true story.
I don't know how else to explain it.
Yep.
Maybe someday we can get into, what you're projecting as a person with micro expressions and how you're standing and things like that, but also just your vibe in general. I mean, a desperate vibe is very, very easy to pick up on for women.
For sure.
I wish I could give you a scientific explanation. And
you can see it. You can see it in women too. It's not as common because I don't think women are as aggressive as men when it comes to dating. But I've seen it. I've seen it not personally like towards me or anything, but I've seen like a woman in the bar, and you can see she's looking around like, where is he? Where's the right one? And you can almost tell that. I could almost sit there and go, you know what she's thinking about? Is that guy a provider? Is this guy a provider? Or whatever she's looking for, right? And you can just see it. You can, so there's that. And then
somebody who there's something attractive about somebody who doesn't need for anything around them, and then they're just a whole, complete, happy person by themselves.
Correct.
That vibe is extremely attractive, and a lot of people are drawn to that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So if you can, and I tell people, you need to be happy with yourself before you can be happy with somebody else. And the reason I say that is because here's the thing: if you're desperate, and this will bring us right into our next one too. If you're desperate, you're going to settle. And you're going to take whatever you can get. And then people end up in a relationship. And then here's this: prospects only want you when you're taken. And we hear that one a ton, right?
Yep.
And the reason is because, again, you're going back to, you're not really looking anymore. So when you're not looking, your energy changes. You're currently satisfied. Right. Now, this also creates a problem where you're in a relationship that you shouldn't be in. And so now people are approaching you now more often. And guess what happens? Then there's
But now can I say something from the female side on this?
Yes.
We as females, because of the dynamic of I don't know if it's that we've created for ourselves or not. That's a whole nother conversation. But we generally don't we don't make conversation. We generally kind of avoid eye contact with guys, things like that. The reason we do is because whenever we are just friendly as human beings, when we just treat them as human beings in general, we tend to be seen as interested.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot, of course.
It's just a societal thing. And like I said, I don't really know what the origin of that is, and I'm in the middle of researching that.
Right.
Actually.
And that would be something good to look into as well. Because,
I think over the years and over the decades and centuries, sure, men have been the aggressors and women have been the ones that have been pursued. Like, right, overall, obviously not. There are cases where that's not true. Of course, yeah. But that's not my point. And so we have just sort of, in order to kind of go about life, a lot of times we just sort of want to Guys are looking to connect. They look.
Right.
If you look back, they're like, oh, And I think because of the fact that we are so avoidant of guys in like our space as we're walking around in life, as we're in our travels, I think it creates a bigger contrast. So when we are friendly, just friendly,
right,
and we're just baseline human beings,
yep,
they take it as a completely different thing because it's so different than what they're used to.
Right. And I mean, even I get the same thing as a man, because I'm very friendly. I'm friendly to everybody. I treat everybody the same, right? If I just meet 5 people and I just meet them, I treat them all the same. I treat them with respect. I'm kind to them. And, I have had people say, well, I thought you were hitting on me. And I'm like, why did you think that? Like, what led you to believe that?
Right.
I asked, though, me. And it's usually a case where they're like, well, you were, really friendly. You smiled a lot. Well, that's who I am. If you know me, you know me, So, but
I'm
more
talking
so
like
with women.
If you're just walking down the street
right,
and there are complete strangers on the street and you just happen to give one back eye contact that's like 1, 2, 3 seconds longer than like everyone else.
Right.
There are guys that will actually take that as like, oh, that's different. Something's going on there.
Yeah.
They may pursue that. So we have to we always try to keep guys at arm's length with the way that we act.
Okay.
So basically, when a guy is taken, and I just want to throw this into the mix because this happens a lot, and I want guys to understand, when women are talking to you because you have a girlfriend or you're taken, it's not necessarily interest. It may just be that we drop our guard because we're like, oh, good.
Thank God.
There's a guy that I don't have to.
Right. Yep.
I don't have to put my wall up for this guy. He's got someone else, so he's got no interest in me. Good, I could just be regular.
Yes, and there's that too. Yes, there's both sides of it, of course.
And unfortunately, no good deed goes unpunished on that. And a lot of guys will take that as like, oh, well, she's interested in me now. She wasn't interested in me before. Yeah, no, we're just trying to prevent you from pursuing us.
Right.
Because we're talking to you as human beings, and again, it is baseline. It's like, hi, how we doing? Oh, good. To have a conversation with somebody for 10 seconds or 15 seconds, when they're single, you have to be all worried about how they're construing what you're saying.
Right.
And as a woman, a lot of times you're just making conversation like you would anybody else.
Right.
So when you do that, when it changes, it's not because we're suddenly interested in you because you're taken. It's more like, oh, here's somebody who's now involved, and like we assume that you're not going to be looking outside.
You're not a
of
threat any longer. You're not.
So we could just talk to you like we would talk to
exactly, and you don't have to worry about being hit on.
And it does backfire, but for the most part, I just want guys to understand that. That's what I think. Majority of that is where it's happening.
Right.
It's more like, oh, here's somebody that's not in the hunt anymore. Oh, good. The one less guy I have to avoid because he's going to take me the wrong way.
Right.
And so I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It happens to us as women a lot. I don't.
This makes me wonder about these two. So because we disseminate the differences between men and women. What about a lesbian relationship, for example? How does that have the same effect, or is it a different effect? Because you're talking about 2 women, right? So, and right. there's not this thing. So I'm just talking to the viewers for a second, because I've heard many people say, well, which one's the man? Well, they're lesbians. There is no man at all, and not one of them takes on the thing of the man or anything like that. They're 2 women.
I believe it's just energy, right? Because flipping the narrative is my favorite thing. So for me, in a lot of my relationships, I've usually been like the strong pig-headed one,
right?
And I've generally dated a lot of guys that were a little more, I wouldn't say subservient or passive, because that's not the word I'm looking for,
right? But
they're a little more interested in making sure that things. I am very my way or the highway with some people,
of course,
and so that's how guys I've dated have been, not because they've submitted to me, but just because they're not interested in having a big fight with me about something. They just assume.
Right.
Not be bothered unless it's something,
So that is a form of being passive, especially.
It is, but it's.
Especially if they. Especially if they have different beliefs than you, right? Right. You and I we've never really butted heads. I will never even say that, but we've had our disagreements, and you need to be with somebody who can speak their mind, but not
Yep.
Not fight about it. And that's
and I do date guys that speak their mind. And I will be honest with you, if I'm dating somebody and there's something that they're particularly passionate about, I have no problem with having a conversation with them and listening to them. I'm not going to not hear them out.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I'm not concerned with their beliefs, or I'm not interested in what they believe in. It doesn't mean that.
Right.
But if the two of us I tend to go with guys that are sort of, they go with the flow sort of guys. And it depends. If something's really important to me and they don't care, they're just not going to fight with me for the sake of fighting. They're just not the type.
Right.
There are guys that will just fight with you because they want to be the ones that make decisions. And it doesn't matter what the answer is, but they just want to be so part of it that they're going to pick a fight with you about it.
Right.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and that's not going to work for you.
I don't tend to date guys that are that way.
Right. Exactly.
They seem to be like, hey, if this is a big deal to you, then fine. Let's just do it your way, whatever. And we'll go from there. And if something is really important to them, that's fine. They'll usually say so when they'll have to discuss that. But
yeah, because you don't want some weak passive guy.
I would imagine with lesbians or with someone who is not necessarily cis one way or the other, I would imagine that it would be the energy of the person. And in mixed company, I have a few friends that are lesbian and still deal with it, because men don't consider that.
No,
They're
course
just
not.
like,
of course
there's
not.
a female.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't, and I've heard them say, well, if they only knew what I was really looking for, they would probably, they'd probably kick themselves if I've also heard lesbians I've had guys try to explain to them that they're lesbian because they haven't had the right kind of man.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah.
I just believe that if you're happy and you're content, in independent of gender or pronoun, if you are an independent person and you're happy with yourself and you're walking down the street, a complete person, and you've done all of your shadow work, as they say, that's just I just think it's from anybody who you encounter, they're drawn to you.
Of course, your energy is going to be more positive. Your energy is not going to be as hunting, because look, any relationship you have to find, right? So if your eyes are closed, you're not going to find it. Anything, any kind of relationship. Oh, absolutely.
Right. I mean, if I'm insecure, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I think all of us are insecure for some reason or other, right? So if I feel like insecure for whatever reason, and I run into somebody who just doesn't seem to exude that, I'll be honest with you, that draws me. I'm attracted to people in general, having nothing to do with dating or anything like that. I love people around me who are not over egotistical, not but just quietly confident people.
Right. Yeah.
Who are like, listen, I know who I am. I know, what I'm about. I know what I want, whatever. And the rest of the world, whatever.
That's right.
I love
That's really
like
what
that.
Confidence is. A lot of people think confidence is about the way you look, right? Because I'm a very confident guy. I'm satisfied with my life. I'm very happy where I am, and I'm single. I'm still happy. I don't need somebody.
This is why Dave and I draw people, because we're single. However, we're fine with being single.
Yes, it's okay.
I know it's like a simple statement, but that's all it is.
But here's the thing: a lot of people will tell you they're fine with being single, but they're not. And that goes back to that. Hey, you can tell us whatever you want. We're all going home to watch our TV show, and you're by yourself, so you have to understand. That's right. It's on you to be honest with yourself, because it's your life. Correct. Yeah. Yep.
Episode 2. Be honest with yourself.
That's right.
But no, it is. At the end of the day, it's so weird to me that anybody would go out of their way to convince me they're okay when they all have to go home to their own.
Right. They know.
Mirror.
They know. You already know.
So why tell? And you don't have to tell me or not tell me or do anything. But at the end of the day, really what matters is that when you go home and you're sitting there by yourself at your kitchen table, you have to reckon with yourself.
Correct. Are you truly okay with it, or are you not?
And are you okay?
Yeah.
And if you're not okay, I would say that it's not a bad idea to start looking into why you're not and seeing if you can adjust that. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to be okay.
The thing,
there are people who are upset when you tell them that.
I know.
I don't think being okay with single is right at all. There's something wrong with people that are like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
I've been told. I've been told that too. Why are you single? Right. Get a girlfriend. Settle down. Settle. Okay, that's the word. Settle down. So you want me to go out and settle? That's the word that I hear predominantly when you tell me settle down. Settle is the word that I hear.
Yes.
You want me to pick somebody
I.
and settle and then
Yep.
change the way I live for somebody that I'm settling for?
Just to be involved.
I
so
don't
that
friggin'
person you
think
run
so.
into isn't uncomfortable. They just want you to make them comfortable. All of that
I know.
is so that next time you see them, they're okay with it. And I will say this too. When I started messing around on dating sites and stuff, most of the time I had a message board thing. So I still do. I've created several chats that belong to me now so that I can get my energy out when I want to chat. But there was a point in time where I had to go to certain message boards that were interesting to me to chat in the way that I wanted to. And I would always get I would offend people by saying, in other words, I would say that, hey, I'm on a dating site, but I'm not, if I don't meet anybody in this dating site, I don't care. This is like a periphery thing. I go out, I work 4 or 5 nights a week. At that point, I was working 4 or 5 nights a week in nightclubs. So I had so many people that I met that it was like I was throwing up over it. So it was kind of like, this is like the type of thing that this is really more for people that I wouldn't run into in my ordinary life. It's just a subsequent thing. It's not my main way of meeting people.
Right.
And I would really offend people with that. Oh, well, if you're not really looking, then you need to get off the site.
Right.
And let me tell you what that is. That's I'm doing this, and everybody who isn't doing this is ruining my chances. And it also is, oh, you're a little more confident in who you are than me. I have to have somebody.
Right.
And so the fact that I'm running into people that could care less is extremely uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
Because it makes me feel like I'm needy, and I don't like that. So you need to go away.
Right.
I would never say that to anybody. They would just take that from what I was saying. Well, you know, whatever. If I meet somebody when I'm working, fine. If I meet somebody here, fine. If I don't meet anybody at all, fine.
Correct. Yeah.
This is just me throwing. Throwing a fishing pole in the water, and I lean it up against the thing. And if I get a bite, I check it. And if I don't like it,
it's kind of like fishing, right? You fish because you enjoy fishing, but if you catch a fish, great. That's great. That's a wonderful day of fishing. If you don't, you're still going to go fishing again because it's just life, right? So let
me add to this analogy for one.
Analogy? It's an analogy.
David, I just have.
I don't have one for that.
I know. I was waiting for you to hit something, but that's okay.
I don't have it.
Maybe we'll have a little piece of music that plays analogy, but I'll make a little thing.
Not this one.
No, but I will tell you that noise applies if you're out fishing. Now, I don't personally fish, but I have a ton of friends that fish. I have some guys that are out in charter boats bringing in tunas. I have friends like that. The end of the day, to me, if obviously it matters what you're doing. If it's a commercial fisherman, it's a different story.
Of course,
it's more of an occupation. But if you're out fishing for the joy and relaxation of fishing,
yes,
you're really I'm gonna use this as an analogy because there are people who, if they don't get the fish, they're upset.
Right.
And it becomes a thing about, well, I didn't get a fish, so my entire day was ruined. This actually reminds me a lot of dating in the sense that I have friends that love to fish, and all they really enjoy is, let's say they go to a spot and they're looking for a fish, but really they just want to sit and relax and listen to nature. And there's all these things that they do that's calming to them. And the fish is almost like the bonus, but it's not like the goal. And I think I feels very zen to me. Hey, it's Sunday or whatever day it is. I'm going to go out and I'm going to bring my bait and I'm going to go fishing. But really, I just want to go be in nature and relax, listen to the water, and just listen to the birds and whatever the case may be. And if I catch a fish at the end of all of that, that's even better. But it's not the reason I'm doing it.
Right. Exactly.
To me, that's the way to date. That's
the way to approach somebody is when you approach them, you're approaching them in hopes of maybe, well, for me, it's a little bit different. I see them across the room, and we've already had this discussion, so I'm not going to say it all over again, but I see them and I go, ooh, she's pretty. I'm going to go talk to her and hope she can speak English, and proper English, and she's not dumb as a stump because, now I'm one step closer to catching a fish if she does
Dave,
that.
You're insulting stumps all the time. I think that's terrible.
I know, poor stumps. Is a stump? Well, is a stump dumb? I kind of look at it because you kind of.
How dare you say that a stump could be a person? What an insult to the stump!
I know, right?
Anyway,
that's it.
But yeah, I'm the same way in that I just sort of I've done things that are opposite of most people, and I don't want to be what we call NLOG, and it's not analogy, but it's not. I'm not like other girls. I'm not really saying that. But really, if you know me, I don't know how else to explain it, because there's not very many people that know me that know that I'm very untypical and I'm a kind of an anomaly out there. So for me to have a conversation with somebody, I'll just kind of, hey, how's it going? I don't know. I usually will do just something opposite what guys expect women to do.
Right.
And I get the word a lot. I'm intrigued by it when I hear it. I try not to roll my eyes. I really try hard.
I know.
My eyes. Because I think when they're saying that to me, they think that they're telling me something that I've never heard before. I don't know. But I'm kind of like, here we go with the intrigue stuff, because it never goes well. But if I see somebody out that I think is good looking or whatever, I'll just say that. Hey, I just want you to know that I think you're good looking, and I just wanted you to know that I saw you walking by, and I think you're a good looking guy.
That was somebody actually said that to me once, and I'm going to tell you that it was probably the most breath of fresh air, because you know, Lana, and you guys probably heard me say it. I hate it when somebody beats around the bush. In fact, it's on my 2 weeks ago, the episode, my list, or a few weeks ago. It's on one of our past episodes, my list. And one of it is, don't beat around. I hate beating around the bush. Say what you mean to me, what you say. And I was out one time and I was sitting there, and this beautiful woman come up to me and she said, I just want to tell you, you're a very handsome man. And I ended up married to her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
I did. I did. I ended up married to her.
I did end up dating a guy that I said that to, but it wasn't my intention. It really wasn't.
Right. And I don't think it was her intention either.
Yeah, just hey, you got my attention, and I've watched you kind of, I'm not trying not to be creepy, but I mean, I've seen you in different parts of this place that we're in.
Yeah.
And I just thought I'd come up to you and say, hey, I just think you're a really good looking guy.
Yeah.
And have a great night.
Yeah.
I had no interest. The guy could have said yes, no, hey, go fuck yourself, go away.
Yeah,
whatever
exactly.
You had to
I'm
say,
married, I'm gay. There could have been a whole bunch of things that it could have went.
It didn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't. I mean, if the guy was gay, it wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't matter, because you were saying,
to know that he was attractive.
Correct. Now, see, I'm going to say, though, that does not work as well for a man. If a man goes up to a woman and says, I just want you to know you're a beautiful woman. But if he truly doesn't have, because I have said that to women, and, and I've said it, and they said, oh, thank you. And that was it. I don't, or I would continue the conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's still a matter of what your intentions are and your energy, right?
Right.
If your intentions
I've actually been told that
I
by
want to
somebody
get
who
laid.
just said that to me.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. If you go up to them and you say that it's not a matter of people are like, I don't even know how to begin a conversation with somebody. Well, if your intentions are null, if you don't have any intention besides a conversation,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what you say. She's going to be accepting of it. And guys, you need to realize energy is huge, huge, huge. But we need to go down some of the list here. Okay, go ahead.
So the next one I'll bring up, let's see, is, let's bring up No One Wants to Die Alone, which there's very many lines.
We all die alone.
Response to this. Well, that's going to be although I did have an argument with a guy online somewhere, and I have a technical bunch that I deal with, a very pragmatic bunch that I talk with. And I had a guy say to me, well, not if you're in a plane accident, a plane crash. And I'm like, well, that's true.
Touche.
That's true. Or some kind of mass murder incident, or, something like a car accident. Okay, that's true. I still don't believe that if I died in, a plane with a bunch of people, we'd all go in the same place, though.
Yeah, who knows?
But
who knows?
Right?
We don't know nothing.
But yes, but generally, right? And in being married to somebody, you can be married to somebody for 50 years. It does not guarantee you that you will not die alone. I can tell you,
right,
from several couples that I know, that generally somebody is outside the house somewhere and passes away.
My mother was 54 years old when she passed away. She was married. Her husband was at home, and he got a call and said, you better get down here. She's not doing well. By the time he got there, she had passed. So my mother did die alone, or with people in the hospital, strangers, whatever it is. Now, that's it. And we all feel like, oh my God, that's so terrible. But in reality, yes, there have been people that, in a perfect world or on TV, they're holding hands and
Right. And it's funny. I got somebody really mad because they posted something of like an old couple and the lady's laying in, on her deathbed and her husband's holding her hand. And I forget what the story was, but of course the story made no sense to me, or it didn't matter to me. My question was, well, who's going to hang on to the husband when he dies?
Exactly.
That was my first answer.
Yeah.
And the guy that posted it got really upset with me. Like,
of course.
Well, I don't, I'm like, okay, so he holds her hand while she dies, but then who's holding his hand?
Exactly. So here's the thing. No one wants to die alone. That's really, sure, I'd love to grow old with somebody that I love. And when I see an old couple walking down the beach, that's great. The phrase is just stupid. Let's just say it's a stupid phrase.
Alone is a word that doesn't really, unless there are people who do die like alone, meaning like they're isolated somewhere and there's no other people around. It does happen. But it's rare, and alone is not really the way to word it. Right. I think people mean I do not want to grow old single, and that makes more sense. That's technically more correct about what it is that they're saying. And I can understand that, but I don't want people to be negative about this, but if you can embrace the fact that you may be single for a long time, and it's possible you may be single your entire life.
Right.
That you can accept that and live your life, because you ain't getting a second one. And if you think being with someone else and growing old is the only way to live and everything else is shit, then you're going to have you can't do that over. So you might as well enjoy your life while you're having it.
Of course. Absolutely.
Yes. It'd be great if you could do that with someone else. And it's probably going to be happening easier for you that you meet somebody else if you change your attitude.
But, here's the thing, and people just ignore all this, right? I have friends too. So I'm never alone unless I choose to be alone. If I want to go and hang out with my friends, I can do that. Exactly. In fact, today is Sunday, and my friend, I'm not going to use their names, they're a couple, and they're a great couple, and I love them both to death. Mm-hmm. But the guy has been a friend of mine for years and years. He's like my brother, and we're very close. They give me a call on Sunday, and they're like, hey, they do date days on Sundays. That's a date day. And they've been calling me lately and going, hey, we're in your area. You want to come with us? And I'm like, this is your date day. And they go, you can come on our date day, it's great because, here's the thing is, and I don't feel like I'm on a date, of course, but, when you're with a friend, it's still a great feeling. It doesn't matter if it's, you're having a good day with somebody or some people.
And a side note on this, if you have a really good couple of friends who are married or involved and they're a really good couple, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be a third wheel, and I feel sad because I'm not with someone else. I'm not saying that you're saying this. Yeah. I just know people that do say this.
Yep.
It's good to go off with a couple and hang out with two people that are like really into each other and who get it, because it rubs off on you and you learn from it.
It does. Absolutely.
So it's you're observing two people in captivity, who are
in captivity,
raised, who are
they're in captivity,
have learned to be happy together. Rim shot. Who have learned to be really, happy together or respective of each other and learn how to have fun and whatever. That's all stuff that
and at some still point two individuals.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I know they are.
Yep.
Well, I don't know.
They are.
I would assume.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
Are,
right. So it's nice for me to see when I see them together. It's the type of relationship I would be okay being in. In other words, it's not one of these relationships that make me go, thank God I'm single. Because I have friends like that too. Don't trust me when I tell you.
But while you're out and about in your life, if you have couples that you want to that want to spend time with you, then I would suggest that you go, and I would suggest that you, obviously not like you're a scientist, but you just kind of hang around that couple and you like watch them interact, and there's a lot of things about that may be good information to take from it.
Right. That
you may use someday, or you may learn, what not to do based on a couple that you're hanging out with, right?
Yep.
So I'm just saying. And I just have to say, the beginning of that phrase, no one wants to. I don't like absolute statements.
Right.
I just don't like it.
You can't say no one.
Everybody wants to get married, or nobody wants to do this, or nobody. The other day, Dave and I were talking in some chat room where we were talking about going out to eat alone or going to movies alone, and somebody's like, why would anybody want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
You look like a loser. Nobody wants to do that. It's kind of like, no, that's you.
Right.
You can't project yourself onto an entire human race because of something.
Exactly. And this comes from probably a guy that's single or whatever.
You don't want everybody else to want it because you don't. So you want everybody else to have the same feeling that you do.
Right.
Because it makes you feel better.
Right. And which is silly.
When in reality,
I
you're just
I could
a
tell
weirdo
you
that can't go somewhere by themselves.
I mean, I could tell you stories. I met, this was a long time ago. I went to the movies by myself, and I was at the movies by myself, and there was a girl sitting 2 things down from me, and we ended up sitting together watching the movie. Stranger, total stranger. Yeah. And we ended up becoming friends. And, so when you go somewhere by yourself, she didn't look at me and go, wow, that guy's a loser. Nope. She was there by herself too. And I thought, wow, that chick's very confident. And
I got news for you. People who are there that aren't by themselves, they're not paying attention to you. Can I just say that people, what you're doing out in the world, and this is really more for extroverts, because extroverts tend to be very, very worried about what people are going to think, what they're doing.
Right.
It's not, introverts too, but I think extroverts is where it really is. If you're out by yourself doing something, nobody cares what you're doing.
Right.
Stop it.
They don't.
Nobody cares.
They truly don't. And
people are so involved in their own lives, you have no idea how little they pay attention to what you're doing.
Here's a little secret about my little
strip down
romance.
Naked and jump on a table.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Here's my little secret of when I'm actually dating somebody. We go to the movies, and I have this thing at the beginning of the movie. When the movie starts, I lean over and I give her a kiss, and I say goodbye. See you after the movie, because I don't want to talk to you. I'm watching a movie, so therefore,
that's what you're there to do.
Yes, and eat popcorn. And when I go to reach in the popcorn and somebody else's hand in there, God damn it, move your hand. I wanted that. I was so looking forward to grabbing that popcorn, and your hand is in the way. I'm just being facetious, obviously.
But listen, I have had people say to me, "Hey, let's go see this movie," and the first thing I say to them is, do you talk during movies?
Yep, exactly.
And they'll be like, "What do you mean? Do I talk about? Do you talk during movies?"
Yeah, that's me because
I don't want I don't want to know you exist while the movie is happening.
Correct. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people go to the movie because it's the experience of them being together, and that's fine. But when I go to the movies, it's to see the damn thing. Yeah, that's on the screen.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love going to the movie and watching movies with somebody. Mm-hmm. It's nice to sit there, maybe hold hands with somebody while I'm laying on the couch watching a movie or laying on the couch. But here's the thing. It's like me with football, right? And you'll see it on my Facebook. Football. Shh. Yeah. Like in other words, and I remember I was dating this woman once, and it was the very beginning, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing Sunday?" I go, "No, I'm watching the football game." She goes, "Oh, we should get together and watch the game." I go, "Nah, I like to watch the game alone because I'm fanatical about the game. I don't want to talk about anything except football during the Patriots game."
And you also don't, I mean, other than, hey, did you see that pass or whatever?
Yeah, stuff like that.
But for the most part, you don't really even want to have a conversation during it because I think you miss things as you're talking. So when you go to a movie and you sit there, somebody turning to me and saying, "Hey, what did they just say? And why are they doing that? Get out of my face. I don't know any more than you know."
Yeah, I love that.
We're watching the same movie.
Yeah.
Like, let's discuss this. If you want to go have coffee after the movie and talk for an hour or two about it, I am all about that.
Yep. I mean, I even have,
that's great.
And I'm like, when I tell you about the football games, I used to have a friend that would come over, and I said, "You can come over. Do not bring beers." "Well, I want to drink during the game." I go, "No, because when you drink, you start talking, and I don't like it. I don't want to talk about crap. I don't want to hear about the drama that happened 2 weeks ago or a month ago or something. We're watching football, right? So I'm very fanatical when it comes to that. So it's like the same thing. Like when I watch a movie, I get into the movie. I feel it.
Yeah,
and if
I'm the
you're
same way.
talking,
Even whether it's home or at a theater, that's how I am.
Yeah,
too.
me too.
The movie is the reason. Like I'm a pragmatist, so I wouldn't have a movie on unless I was wanting to watch.
Yeah,
the movie.
I don't use movies as background noise. If you want to sit here and have a conversation and you want something on, I would shut the TV off and I would maybe turn on music quietly.
I do that too.
So we
can
talk.
Get mad.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Well, which thing do you want me to pay attention to?
Yeah.
You or that? I cannot do both.
That's right.
I can't do both.
Well, you can't.
If you're trying to make me do both, I'm going to retain nothing.
So apparently, all this stuff that we're talking about is one reason you would want to die alone. I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I die alone, it's a peace and quiet. Nobody's talking to me while I'm trying to die.
Well, a real woman would be quiet during a movie.
Well, listen, a real man would listen to a woman as she's trying to talk all through a movie.
Yeah. So that's actually
cooking,
the next one. A
cooking
real
tips
man
or
or real woman does XYZ, right? So that was our little intro into
yes.
that.
It's a segue.
A segue into it. Yeah.
The first thing I hear, because I'm literal when I see real man, real woman, is as opposed to what?
Mm-hmm.
A sack of hay, as opposed to a fake man or woman.
Right?
Like, is it like a crash test dummy? What are we talking?
Yeah,
that's what goes through my head. What is the other?
It's such a stupid statement because first of all, you could say a real man does this. Like for example, you could say a real man opens the door for his woman, or opens the door for women and is chivalrous. Okay, so maybe that's what you believe. You should say a man that I'm attracted to does XYZ, because that's the reality of it. I always open the door for people, and we've had this discussion, and I've actually held the door. I've opened the door once. I reached around a woman and opened the door, and she goes, I was quite capable of doing that. So guess what? To her, I'm not a real man, because that's not what she wanted in her life at all.
Right.
So,
it's so very case by case.
Of course it is.
Something like that.
It's such a dumb statement.
To me, it's bait. It's bait.
Of course
and
it is.
It's passive aggressive, which is not my favorite thing.
Right.
And it's a bitter response to something. Most people that say, well, a real man would do this or a real woman would do this are projecting crap on you from something they went through and you would know nothing about.
Right.
Basically, I think
I agree.
Happening. So I could, my version of a real man is obviously going to be completely different than most of my friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So the statement is a real man. Am I a real man? Yep. Do I need to drop my pants and prove it?
Breathing?
Now, am I what?
Are you breathing?
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
Again, real. Are you breathing? Like, what's a fake man? Is a fake man like, a guy that like you see in like a department store, like one of those like.
Yeah, it's a silly statement because it's dumb. Like a real man would never hit a woman. Yeah. Well, it is a real man that's hitting a woman. He's just a shitbag man. That's all.
Right.
There's a difference. Yes.
Exactly.
Say what you mean and mean what you say. And a real man does this. And I mean, I get the statement. I get what. But it's almost like a real man.
But it's
that means they're looking for that. That's what they're looking for. So basically, this is a way for people to tell you their list without saying, "I have a list." Right? I have a friggin' list.
Instead, they should just be like, "Listen, well, I like the guy that I'm dating to do blah blah blah."
Yeah.
Be honest and be direct about it.
Yeah, you don't have to say a real man.
But when somebody says to you, "Hey, a real man," I just want to, Dave, and I don't know if Dave will agree with me on this, but when somebody says to you, if you're a guy and a woman says to you, "Well, a real man would do this," say to them, what exactly is it that's happened to you that you need to express?
Yeah.
Just psychoanalyze them right
there. So, yeah.
Like, what is it that's happened to you that, you felt the need to say that to me? So what exactly, what is it about, dating, or what is your past doing to you that so like you feel you have to say that to me?
Yeah. I mean, and it goes both
again,
ways too. I mean, I see memes and I definitely agree.
That's what I mean.
I agree. Sometimes I see a meme and it'll say, a real woman, feeds her husband steak and gives him BJs. And I'm like, that sounds good to me. But if she doesn't, it doesn't make her real. It means that's on my list. I'll take that. But that's all it means, right? So I think that and I'm going to go back a little deeper on this one, when I believe that they're stating things that are on their list, that they just don't have the balls to come out and say, I have a list. Or, here's the thing. When I ask somebody what's on your list and they go, I don't have a list. It depends on every situation. I go, yeah, bullshit in a bucket, because I see the memes you post. That's your list, right? You just be honest about it, and that's okay.
Like what?
Good to have a list.
I wish we lived in a world where people just said stuff though, like straight out.
Right.
It drives me insane to try to figure. And actually, I'm the type of person who kind of already knows what you're saying, so it's so annoying to watch somebody, post a excerpt from War and Peace, when they're just trying to say like this one thing that's got 4 words in it.
Exactly.
Like, I already know that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
So you're just wasting everybody's time with silliness.
Yes.
Hey, I have a list, dude, and I know you, and I know what you are is not on my list. Bam.
Done. That means
done.
You got, and it doesn't. Here's the thing. What's crazy? I have a list. And so that list came out, and I got a phone call from somebody, and I will not say
your list
names.
was published, and you got a response. You got a review.
I did. It was from somebody that I used to have sex with, and she said,
"Oh boy,
I'm not a lot of those things on the list." And I go, and that's why we were just friends with benefits, and we never exactly right, and that's okay. It doesn't mean we can't be friends. Doesn't mean that we can't even have. I hear a doggy. He's having a nightmare.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's barking at something in his dreams.
That's awesome.
I'll wake him up if it gets out of there.
Hey, it's okay. I hear him. That's great. Leave him. Let him go. It's live. We're live podcasting, and that's the wonderful thing about it.
Dog dreams.
Dog dreams. I wish I had something
this
for
week
that.
On doggy dreams.
I don't have. Maybe. Oh, hey, that didn't even work. Maybe.
Oh, bummer.
The dog's having a fight in his sleep. No, that would be terrible. He's a big dog. He wouldn't be whining.
I think he doesn't really. I don't know what he's barking at because he doesn't usually bark. So he must be barking in his dreams about like somebody outside my window or something.
Right.
So yeah, we did the real man one. That really wasn't we didn't need to spend much time on that. We just think it's silly.
It's stupid.
Treating somebody mean to keep them interested. I'm going to break this down psychoanalysis wise. Dave's making a face, so I'm trying to figure out if he's okay.
I'm okay. Yeah.
You having a stroke, Dave?
No, somebody tried to call me, even though I let people know I'm doing my podcast.
It's that thing where like you're on the phone. I don't have children, but it's that thing where like you're on the phone and your children only bother you when you're talking or something like, oh, I don't care what he's doing until he's busy, and then I want to bother him just because I want to see if it works.
Yeah, right. Well,
could be.
Yeah.
Treating somebody mean to keep them interested is, I think, an exaggerated version of not catering, not being a yes person, not being, I guess, a subservient person, because that energy is generally unattractive. And it's also, I think it's also a nod to don't be needy. And it's telling people that works as a strategy. Well, because I'm sure there have been people that have learned that when they went about their own business and decided not to cater to somebody every minute.
Right.
That they got a better result from that person, and that's really because their energy changed.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think this is a really, really crude and unintellectual way to say
it's a horrible way to say it. You treat me mean, and I'm no longer interested. I mean, that's just a fact.
Right.
But here's the thing.
That's what I'm saying.
In fairness, too, I've heard a lot of guys say this, and I see it a lot on these dating things that we're on Facebook.
The pickup artist strategy.
Yes, but it's not only the pickup artist strategy. You see that women will be in a relationship and they're talking about how bad this guy treats her, but yet she stays with him. So now guys are starting to go, oh, is that what I need to do, is treat you like shit, and then you'll be interested?
Right.
And it's sad because here's the thing. Remember something. Guys are trying to learn from women, and women are trying to learn from guys what we like and what we don't like, vice versa, right? And I think that it's creating...
Which can't obviously be done.
It cannot, so correct, right? Because here's the thing.
Right.
There's one person and one person alone that you need to learn from, and that's the person you're interested in, right? And here's the thing.
Right.
I've said it a million times, and you guys have heard me say it. I dated somebody for a year, and things were going well. We never fought. Everything was great. But there were certain things that I learned were missing. It was just not in her personality to do. And that was something that I was on my list. And I looked at my list, even though I was in love with this woman. I'm looking at my list going, yeah, she's not going to do this because that's not her personality. So can I live? Can I live with that?
Then you have to stop and say, well, yes, can I live with that?
No. And the answer was no.
That I'm okay with never getting.
No. And the answer was no. And so I moved forward. I moved on. And I do say moved forward because now, it was difficult, but we had a discussion and that was it. I moved on and we're friends.
I got to go back to the book, the rules, because that was a book that a lot of guys didn't like. And there are reasons why guys didn't like that book. And some of them were the rules. This is an old book. Do you remember the rules?
No, I don't read like that.
Okay. It's no, but I mean, it doesn't. You wouldn't have had to read it. It would have been talked about a lot when it came out.
Oh,
it was a book generally for women that were dating men, and I believe it was a boundary setting book. And I think it's really hard to work with each and every individual woman on what boundaries they don't set and what boundaries they need to add and all that, right? So this book was just like one of those pass over the top generalization type oversimplification because they were trying to get the biggest audience they could.
Right.
So the rules were things like, if you want a guy to go out with you on a Saturday night, don't ever accept a date after Wednesday.
Right.
There was strict bound rules that like, women could just follow to get results they wanted, which a lot of them were rooted in like they were well-intentioned rules. Because if you're a woman that doesn't have boundaries and will just go out with a guy whenever he calls you, even if it's an hour before he wants to go out, that's a little bit like, you need to have a life. And a guy that calls you always last minute or calls you always at 3 a.m. and you respond is going to, by default, assume that you either are going to cater to him or you don't have much going on.
Right.
I don't know what your life is like. It doesn't matter. To some degree, it's not going to matter to him what your life's like because that's all he knows when he deals with you. So he's going to picture it in his mind as whatever based on what he's getting.
Right.
So it's kind of like more of like a, hey, respect yourself.
Oh, I get that. I mean, look, here's the thing. Friends do the same thing to me because I have a very open calendar. Unless something's on my calendar and it's pressing, I have a lot of free time. I made my life like that, so I have a lot of freedom. But I don't, to me, if somebody calls me and says, hey, what are you doing tonight? I'm not going to, it's not a game for me. It's like, I'm not doing anything. So I get setting boundaries, but if they're truly not your boundary, then it's not your boundary.
Right, I know.
But
I'm just saying the book was what it was.
Right.
And a lot of women followed it and did get better results maybe because it was really something that you should take. I think everything you read and everything you see, you should take information from it and you should apply it to your life in a way that works for you. And like, you shouldn't follow everything like step by step without like understanding that it's like not supposed to be for everybody across the board. But some people don't understand that.
Yep.
So I think if you're the type of woman who really what I would say to somebody is not so much don't accept a date on Thursday if a guy wants to date you on Saturday, more like, hey, have a calendar, have a life, have things going on.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's what that means.
And be very reasonable and respectful of yourself and someone else on what kind of time somebody is going to come along and take from you. If they're the right person for you, then make sure that they give you some kind of idea what your day's like in 3 days. Make sure that in a way, if a guy wants to take you out on a Saturday and he's really interested, he's probably going to want to know ahead of time and he's going to want to tell you ahead of time because he's going to want to make sure you can be there.
Right.
So I think that's the underlying phrase or the underlying intent for that book, for that rule is like, if a guy's really interested in you, he's going to want to make sure at a specific date and time that like, maybe for him, a Saturday night is a better night for him because it means date. It means romance to that guy or whatever.
So you think that's a form of treating them mean so they'd be more interested? Being.
No, I'm saying that treat mean to keep interested. I think this is like, it's adjacent to that book kind of reminds me of this rule, meaning like if you don't always fall all over yourself, if you don't always acquiesce to a guy.
Right.
You're going to either create mystery or you're going to create a situation where he's going to understand that he can't just. There are guys out there and women out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just saying. There's a book that was written for women, so I mean, I don't know if there's another one that was written for guys, so that's the reason I used it. But in the end, if you have friends or family or people that you're dating and they don't really have any respect of your time, to me, that's what it means. You don't have to treat them mean, but I think you should stand up for yourself in the sense that you have a life and you have a schedule, and they should respect.
As long as you do have, like to me, okay. So if I
think you do. I think everybody does, even if it's to do nothing. I
agree.
Way I live.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. There's
right?
Yes, absolutely. There's times when I want alone time, and I schedule that sometimes if I'm getting busy. Like my life is mostly free,
right?
But when I'm busy. So I do schedule time. Like, if I had a long day, the last thing I want to do is entertain at the end of that day. However, if I ask somebody, hey, what are you doing tonight? And she's always like, well, I'm busy. Okay, that's fine. And, you know, because if I happen to be running a busy schedule and then I reach out to this person all the time and I find out that they're just playing a game because they think it's a rule that they should have, I'm probably going to be turned off by that.
I don't mean that. I don't think they should.
Right.
What I think they should do, I think both parties should understand that the other person is like a human being with like a life and there's some respect of their time that we should have.
Yes, of course.
So if somebody says, oh, well, that Dave is always, really doesn't really have a, you know, like if somebody disrespects your time in your schedule and always calls you and goes, what are you doing in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That to me is just them not being respectful of the fact that you have a schedule and things that you need to do.
Right.
And I think there are people who will do that because that's how they feel about your life.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, I get that. I do get.
You just want people to understand,
and I completely understand that because I do have to do that sometimes. Sometimes I feel like, what are you doing? And I go, well, I got meetings all day, and they're like, well, geez, I wanted to do this, and I said, well, you should have told me. If you had told me, you know, a week ago, this stuff wouldn't be on my calendar. We could have done it.
Right.
You know, I didn't know. Nobody told me. You know, and that's like another thing too, is where people invite me to shit on Facebook. Did you? Well, I invited you. I'm like, I didn't get an invite, you know, and if you're my close friend, I expect a phone call if something's going on. Hey, I'm having a gathering or we're doing this birthday thing and, you know, we want you to be there. Mm-hmm. Don't send me an invite on Facebook. That's ridiculous to me because sometimes I go weeks without looking at Facebook, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, definitely. I mean, if I say, hey, listen, everybody, I'm going to have a fire at my house and here's an invite. I mean, whoever doesn't see it, doesn't see it. I'm not going to get mad at them and be like,
right.
But I invited you specifically.
Yeah.
If I want a specific person to be there, then I'm going to talk to that person directly.
Exactly.
Otherwise, how else am I supposed to know? Yeah. It doesn't, people are whatever.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, stuff like not returning every third phone call. I mean, because of the fact that some people don't understand nuance, I think that rules like that are for people who just don't have any idea how to self-regulate or how to apply something to their own situation.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. That rule book was like that, but treating people mean to keep them interested. If that really works, it's because you're dealing with somebody who's looking for a challenge, and those aren't really people you want to keep around very long. So you don't want to treat anybody mean, but I don't think that's the right way to explain it. What you would really want to do is make sure that you are respectful of them, but you also make sure that you are respectful of yourself.
Right.
Don't disrespect yourself to get attention from somebody else. No matter who it is.
That's right. No, I agree with that.
I think that's really what that means. And that's how I would.
Yeah.
Of course, that's how I would look at it. But that doesn't mean, I know a lot of people look at stuff and see it literally.
So I don't know. And okay, here's the thing. What I'm going to do, and this is going to happen next time. Next time we are recording a podcast, live, mind you, I'm going to buy a timer that I can literally look at and see because
I'm looking and I'm telling you we're at 1.
Are we? Okay.
Yes,
so
because we started at 22 past the hour.
Okay. So
we are now at 23 past the hour.
Well, then that means that this episode is coming to an end. Is what it means.
Yeah.
So
well, what else did we do? We didn't have any. Well, we did have other stuff.
We have other stuff on there, but we can do this again. We'll see how this one goes, and if you guys like it, we can do more of these.
Yep.
Now we also have something interesting, and I'm not prepared for this at all because I don't know what the number is. So I would have to go look it up.
Well, I was hoping you were because I'm not.
You know what? No, I didn't think you would
brand
be.
New. Wait.
So. Yeah, so that was a fail.
So we're gonna now go through our notes.
Yes. So so essentially what we do is we now have a number that you can call and you can actually leave us a message, and I'm going to pull that up right now. And Lana is going to tell you about it really quick while I'm looking this up. If she doesn't.
Oh, so this 800 number, this is so that if you have questions based on a podcast that you heard, anything that we might have said, if you have any topics or interest that you are hoping that we might discuss, responding to anything that we've said. It's really a kind of a catch-all for anything that you want to interact with us about.
Right.
And if you leave us, you can call us and say, hey, listen, I have this situation and I don't know what to do. You don't have to tell us your name or anything like that. If the situation is something that you want us to kind of put under a microscope and discuss, or you need help with something, this is a good place to leave a message for us, and we can just, and of course, let us know when you leave a message if you want us to play the message itself.
Absolutely. That's
possible. You don't have to do that, but that's possible as well. Or, let's say you just want to tell us a joke, or you just, something where you want to interact with us, tell us how great you are, how great we are, and how much you love listening to this podcast.
Yes, you can absolutely
say hi
do that.
to one of us or the other.
Yes.
Anything like that. This is what that number is for. So you'd give us a call at, Dave, you got the number?
I do. 1-800-894-2158. That's 1-800-894-2158. That's our line. And you can call. You can even tell us, did you mention a joke? Because I was.
Yes, I did.
Okay. So I was not. I was not paying attention, if I'm being completely honest.
Okay.
But yeah.
I like it honest, so that's okay.
Yeah, I'm being honest with myself and others.
Yep.
Good episode.
There you go.
If you haven't heard that episode, you should probably listen to it. It's wonderful. It's a great way to be free. But anyway, thanks for joining us this week, and we'll be back next week. And remember,
and by the way, that number that we just mentioned, so I'm going to put that on our website.
Oh yeah,
and
good
in
idea.
Our show notes. But for actually, sorry, it already is on the website because I put it up there already, I believe.
On the Facebook site.
Yeah, no. This is our www.lanaanddave.com.
Oh, you did?
In our about notes. That's.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I did that. I'm way ahead.
You're
of you,
so
Dave.
good.
I did that the day that we were putting this together.
You're so good.
So it's right at the bottom. Just reach us questions or comments. Reach us at this number.
There you go.
So it's there. It is on Facebook as well. I added it there. I have not added it to our IG and Twitter, but I will do that today.
Yeah, and
it's been a little bit of a busy weekend.
Here's a little secret. We're working on a way to be able to do when we record our podcasts, we're looking at a way to be live, or also we're going to have a YouTube channel, which is Lana and Dave as well. The problem is there was Dave and Lana there was a couple on some show. Crap.
I know. I found them. I don't know much about them. I've just found stuff when I did searches.
Yeah, it's like 30-day.
Can we find them and tell them to cut it out?
Yeah, they need to knock
was
that
a couple,
30-day fiance. They're on that show 30-day fiance. It's such a stupid premise. Okay, so anyway, we had a wonderful time talking to you guys. Hope you enjoyed our show.
Yes, we did.
This week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, we will talk to you next week on Lana and Dave, Love and Life. See you soon.
Bye.
Hey, you just listened to Love and Life with Lana and Dave. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please share the podcast, leave us a comment or review, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. We'll see you soon.